Welcome to the Gentle Ledger. Today is Friday, January 16th, 2026, and the market feels like a soft exhale at the end of a week that carried both momentum and uncertainty, like the quiet turning of a page. Now, let's turn softly to the U.S. indexes, where Wall Street wrapped the first full week of earnings with slight but telling moves. The Dow Jones Industrial Average eased to 49,359.33, down about 0.2% as traders locked in modest profits and rotated into cyclical sectors after a busy week. The Nasdaq Composite slipped to 23,515.39, down roughly 0.1%, reflecting mixed momentum in technology and AI-linked stocks. The S&P 500 closed near 6,940.01, off about 0.1%. A gentle pause after a week spent flirting with record highs. Meanwhile, the Russell 2000 crept slightly higher to about 2,677.74, adding roughly 0.1% on the day and reinforcing the small cap strength seen throughout the week. Gently moving into the corporate highlights, individual names told a nuanced story amid the broader ebb and flow. Micron Technology stood out, climbing near 7.8% as memory chip optimism lifted sentiment in semiconductors late in the session. Broadcom also added around 2.5%, a reminder of the continued appetite for AI infrastructure exposure. In banking, PNC Financial Services rose about 3.8% after surpassing earnings expectations, while Regions Financial drifted lower on its mixed results, underscoring the earnings season's dual narratives. CME Group outperformed peers with a 2.5% gain, hinting at renewed confidence in market structure names. At the same time, transport and industrial peers like J.B. Hunt Transport Services felt a mild pullback after mixed revenue signals. Together, these moves felt less like broad conviction and more like selective repositioning across earnings and sector views. Overseas in Asia and Europe, the mood carried across gently yet with its own rhythms. In Asia, major benchmarks saw mixed action. Japan's Nikkei and Hong Kong's Hang Seng both retraced from earlier gains, while South Korea's market held firmer as chip demand narratives persisted. India's markets remained steady as domestic news continued to shape sentiment. Europe's FTSE 100, DAX, and StoxX 600 closed with modest moves, each influenced by regional earnings and geopolitical cues, yet no single theme overwhelming the session. This global interplay echoed the U.S.'s gentle weekend caution, a tapestry woven from varied regional threads. In commodities and bonds, the story shifted quietly beneath broader market currents. Oil prices reclaimed some ground, buoyed by shifting supply narratives and geopolitical undertones, though gains were measured rather than sweeping. Gold, having flirted with record territory earlier in the week, retreated slightly, but stayed elevated as safe haven demand persisted amid macro uncertainty. Meanwhile, U.S. 10-year Treasury yields climbed toward their highest levels in months, nudging near a 4-month peak as traders balanced weekend risk and policy speculation. These movements felt contemplative, a subtle chorus beneath the market's broader symphony. Turning now to the newer corners of finance, in crypto land there was a sense of steady resilience that mirrored other risk assets. Bitcoin traded near the upper $90,000, sustaining earlier strength even as the broader market's tone softened. Ethereum held its ground in the low 3,000s, quietly reflecting a world where digital assets remain connected to broader risk preferences rather than standing apart in isolation. These shifts felt harmonious with the week's theme, present, measured, and reflective rather than overly exuberant. As the week draws to a close, let's rest in the reflective summary and outlook. Today's session encapsulated the week's gentle balance, earnings stories that drove selective strength, indexes that quietly ebbed from recent highs, and risk assets that found support amid broader macro uncertainty. It's a market narrative defined by nuance rather than noise, inviting thoughtful attention without urgency. Tonight, may this gentle cadence carry with you into the weekend, informed, grounded, and calm. Good night.